It's early morning here at Zolder, but we are about to get qualifying underway for round 3 of the Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup. Yesterday, 2 free practice sessions set in sweltering conditions. We've had glorious weather here this week, and although there is a tiny threat of rain to come later on, the teams are all geared up for what's going to be a very hot qualifying session this morning. The usual 3-part Q1 of 15 minutes coming up very shortly for the 3rd round of this year's Sprint Cup, the championship being led by Maxi Bouc and Franck Pereira after races at Misano and Brands Hatch. We've got the qualifying race this afternoon, the main race tomorrow, and with barely a cloud in the sky, Zolder looking absolutely fantastic this morning. It's a proper old school circuit, David Addison and John Watson trackside, and John, it's a place dear to your heart, this, I think.
Indeed it is, David. Good morning. It's 10 corners, 4 kilometres, 2.4 miles around, and as you pointed out, it is old school in the truest of old school for interpretations. Great little circuit to get your teeth stuck into. Difficult corners, the opening sector, sector 1, turns 1, 2, 3, leading down to turn 4, which is the Lucien Bianchi. That then follows up to the back of the pits, one of the few places on the circuit where it is possible to overtake, and that's into the chicane. But I notice that they've got bollards, cones on the inside of the apex of the chicane. They look like they're freestanding, and in my opinion, they will not be freestanding for very long.
We will see if they survive. The traffic cone's part of the perennial these days track limits debate, and if you are judged to have hit the cone, not only do you lose that lap time, but you lose your best up to that point as well. So the stewards are going to clamp down on it. Good luck to the judge of fact on that corner, who's going to try and police it.
Indeed, understand all that, clear as the proverbial, but once those have been clipped, who's going to be the brave soul who's going to go and pick it up, run back, put it in the precise spot presently it's in when there's action on the track? Or are we going to have perennial yellow flags up at this part of the racetrack? I understand and I support the reasons why. There we are down looking at the Villeneuve chicane. Again, now there's a chicane where there is total abuse of track limits. We've seen it time in, time out. So that's the second of the chicanes the drivers will compete. But again, my point is, yes, put those marker cones up there. Yes, tell the drivers are going to be penalised. Yes, do whatever you like. But once the cone has been displaced, who's going to put it back in its place?
Now there you've got the Lamborghini, number 63 at the far end of the pit lane, ready to go. The Lamborghini Huracan, which has been the car to beat of late, not only in terms of the Sprint Cup, but the endurance races as well. It belts out between 5 and 560 horsepower. It's got this V10 engine, and it is a serious bit of kit. And the Lamborghini, very much the car to beat at the moment. And 63 has Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti as the drivers. It's Christian Engelhardt who will do Q1, and therefore start tomorrow's main race. The sister car, Ezequiel Perez Compact and Norbert Siedler, and they will drive number 19. And in that car, it is going to be for the first part of qualifying Ezequiel Perez Compact behind the wheel. So in terms of race wins this year, the victorious team has done the double, both the Q and the main race at Misano, qualifying and main race at Brands Hatch. It's been a double for, in Italy, Franck Pereira and Maxi Bouc, and then in the UK, Christian Engelhardt and Mirko Bortolotti. There, ready to go, is the Petit Baron Bachti Carlo Van Dam Ferrari. Carlo back in a GT car after his spell in a Subaru touring car in the Nürburgring 24 hours a week ago, but that team that we've seen in the Sepang 12 hours for a number of seasons, making its European Championship debut these days. Kessel Racing is the team that operates that car in the Singer Beer livery. Some yet to get the wheels on, yet to go. Now we're going to have around here 33 cars. So should we get this out of the way now, John? Traffic is going to be an issue.
Traffic is becoming increasingly an issue in both Blancpain Sprint and in endurance events. Just the popularity of the Blancpain Sprint and endurance championships. Looking at Franck Pereira, who is behind the wheel of the 84 Mercedes HTP, the Mercedes AMG GT3, to give it its full-on description. It's not a Mercedes-Benz, it's a Mercedes AMG GT3.
With Mercedes-Benz badge on the bonnet, quirkily. Q1 is underway, 15 minutes. You get 4 sets of new tyres for qualifying. Now, depending on who you are, you might get 2 runs in qualifying, or you might get 3, because there are 3 elements, but only effectively half the field will go into Q3. So if you are one of the gun teams, you need to carefully manage those 4 sets of tyres across 3 elements of qualifying and 2 one-hour races. And of course, you've got to have a driver change and a tyre stop within the 2 races. So tyre management, especially in hot conditions, is going to be important. And the new Pirelli tyre this year is something that the McLarens are struggling on, and Audi had been struggling as well up until yesterday.
Yes, I mean, very much it looks like this is going to be an Audi circuit because they're very much the dominant brand. But the nature of this Zolder circuit is 10 corners. Principally, they all turn right, with the exception of just over the top of the hill down into the Villeneuve chicane and the chicanes themselves. It is the left front tyre here that does the majority of the work. The left rear will also get work. The right-hand side does relatively little in a lap. So it is going to be an issue about getting the tyre temperature up to the working level. And that some cars seemingly are able to do. And we've noticed that the 63 Lamborghini, in particular in qualifying at Brands Hatch, had a full half-second advantage over the rest of the field. Now, that might have been down to the brilliance of Mirko Bortolotti in that car, but it indicates to me that the Lamborghinis, in particular, on that style of old-school circuit, have found the key to turn the Pirelli tyre on, and that's where that lap time came from.
So out lap completed, and now onto a flying lap. Most of those teams that were staying in the pit road are either leaving or have left, so the track is getting busier and busier and busier all the time. And we'll start to, as there the McLaren comes onto the circuit, we'll start to get lap times offered up at the end of this next lap. 27, for example, you're looking at the orange one, Team Lazarus Lamborghini has Gustavo Jackerman behind the wheel for Q1. A different co-driver this weekend. It is Nicola De Marco who is driving it, because the regular second driver, Fabrizio Crestani, was replaced yesterday. A medical emergency was the phrase offered by the team to the stewards to ask for permission to change the driver. So we hope that all is well for Fabrizio. And Nicola De Marco has raced for the team in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. He will be behind the wheel in Q2 and Q3 if they get that far.
Over the top of the crest of the hill, then dropped down, and immediately heavy braking into the first part of this. The Villeneuve chicane, the right, the left, and that's where track abuse has always happened there. The exit of the chicane, then a short sprint down to the second of these 2 right-hand corners, which were a major feature of this circuit when it was a Grand Prix circuit prior to the tragic loss of Gilles Villeneuve back in 1982.
It's a circuit that is used for national races. Even the British Racing and Sports Car Club, the British race organising team, comes here once a year for a Caterham festival. It's got its very popular 24-hour race. It's a busy circuit. And yeah, there you can see the Lamborghini then with Gustavo Jackerman at the wheel, working his way up towards the end of the lap. They go from the Rindt curve, the short straight, to the Jackie X Bocht, the chicane at the end of the lap, and then over the timing line. And Jackerman does a 1:36.981. Now, yesterday in the 2 free practice sessions that we had, the best times were being offered up by the number 3 Audi, the Jake Dennis Peters Kotos car, a 1:30.372 in the first session, a 1:30.064 being the better of the 2 top times that that car set. So they are some way to go yet, but of course tyres will get up to temperature, fuel load will come down.
Yeah, I mean, right now the quickest lap has gone to Stuart Leonard in one of the WRT Audis. He's gone just over 3 seconds a lap quicker than Gustavo Jackerman in the number 27 Lamborghini. So it's all a little bit irrelevant. People are just going back. There was overnight rain. I don't know what time it fell at night, but there's the residue of it still around maybe the gutters that are...
That's Alexander Matschul getting all a bit arms and elbows. We've had lap times being cancelled already, incidentally, for track limits. 87, Jean-Luc Bobelic has lost a lap time for track limits at turn 6, which is the first of the chicanes. This is the Ferrari you're looking at there now. Alexander Matschul at the wheel of it, working his way out of the Villeneuve chicane on towards the Telamenbocht, turn 11. And then this fast run down towards Boulderberg at the bottom of the lap. We turn right, then there's a little flick through the Jochen Rindt Bocht, Jochen Rindt curve, there it is. And then the straight down to the last chicane, the Jackie X corner.
So times are beginning to get down to the middle of the low 1:33. Enzo Eden, the number 1, the reigning champion, and he's just now been overtaken by the Sansalok Racing Romain Monti. He's gone a 31.8, followed by Stuart Leonard at 31.9. So out lap, first time lap, tyres building up to temperature, and all of a sudden grip is coming. So the lap time from last night was 1:30.064. So we're about a second approximately. Look, he lit up that right rear too.
Now we're getting improvements in the sectors. Daniele Frank Pereira, I should say, is an improver, and so too is Marcus Winkelhock. Now, this is Frank Pereira, who's done an absolute best in the first sector. He's got the road to himself as well in the Mercedes, AMG GT3, the HTP Motorsport Run car, turning now down through the Boulderberg right-hander. He's on the power, and look, he's not going to have to worry about traffic on this lap, is he? It's a 1:31.096 to beat. If you get into Q3, it is the time only from that session that counts. So at the moment, what they're trying to do is get into effectively the top half of the entry, up towards the timing line, with an absolute best then in the first sector. And Frank Pereira will break the beam, and he will go second fastest on a 1:31.248.
Michael Meadows currently number 90. He is on a lap fastest overall first sector, so he's taken that mantle away from Frank Pereira.
But we have a Bentley fastest because Andy Soucek has gone top, 1:30.835, and then Phil Quaife goes even quicker by a tenth of a second.
Absolutely, literally, I mean, his car's coming across the line. There is Michael Meadows. Now he's got slowing traffic ahead of him. That's going to be frustrating because they'll probably go straight on into the pit lane. Indeed. Did Frank Pereira go into the pit lane, or did he stay on track? Couldn't quite catch that lane.
There's a yellow flag out as well in the first sector. Somebody has had a moment. So
that's interfered with Michael Meadows' lap.
Red flag, John.
Yeah, red flag. So there it is.
It's 11, isn't it? It's the Ferrari that's in the wall.
Bronizeski,
yeah.
And
so
that's
the red.
That's coming down the hill after. There we are. You can see. Oh, that's out of turn one.
Yes.
How did he get there?
Did he run wide and come across the circuit?
Well, that's the obvious thing, that you run wide on the exit of turn one. You drop the wheel off the racetrack. It is quite sandy offline, and if you catch it badly, you can see the marks on the track, and certainly heavy damage to the left rear. Let's look and see what he did. He was wide on the exit, and he just booted it, and the torque backs it in. So damage to the rear wing and damage to the left front. Probably mostly superficial, but of course having a devastating effect on their qualifying attempts, because unlikely the car is going to be returned back to the garage, repaired, and being able to continue on. So a small error, big penalty.
Absolutely. And in fairness to Michael Bronizeski, who is an AM Plus, he came in as an AM driver and has got better and better and better, done a huge amount of racing in a short space of time, and was the champion in Pro-Am last year across both sprint and endurance and overall within the Blancpain GT series. He does not make that many mistakes. No. I can't think of another time where I've had to talk about Bronizeski doing anything like that. So it is uncharacteristic for him, even though he's not one of the more experienced drivers. Best times under the red flag are being cancelled. If you were improving your lap as the red flag came out, you lose that lap time. Bronizeski assesses the damage and thinks, oh no, that's going to cost. But as John said, it means potentially the car does not get out for Q2 and therefore can't get out for Q3.
Indeed. So essentially you're going to say we can't determine who the front row of the grid is going to be, but we've got a pretty good educated guess who will be in the back row of the grid.
Yeah, indeed. So pit stops cycle through now. 8 minutes will be on the clock once we get back up and running. Some may now sacrifice this session and put the second driver in and get the car ready for Q2. 55 though is Phil Quaife at the wheel. Lorenzo Caze will drive in the second element of qualifying. It's 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. But of course, when the red flag is shown in a qualifying session, the clock stops. So the overall time period is going to be extended a little bit because of this red flag. 33 cars, as I say, in the entry for this weekend, which is great to see. And the Zolder pits absolutely ram full. There's Felix Sarales Mercedes, the Puerto Rican driver, ex-single-seater racer. And for Rinaldi Racing, Alexander Matschel, who shares with Daniel Karlwitz, who is as good in Ferraris as he is in the Corvette, with which he's one of the stars of the German GT Championship. And there is the red-faced Michael Bronizeski assessing the damage, and the team ready to retrieve the car.
Yes, it's going to take a truck which has just turned up. It's going to be lifted up onto the back of the flatbed, and then it will be returned to the pits. I don't think there's any substantial damage to the barrier, so nothing that needs to be attended to there. The nudge into the barrier, the rear of the car hit the barrier first and it swung round. Not significant, so other than the superficial damage to the Ferrari and the loss, therefore, of being able to compete in the final two qualifying segments, that's a disappointment for that particular Ferrari, a car that certainly in the Pro-Am category was one that was going to be well, keep an eye on.
Michael Meadows, you saw getting out of the number 90 Mercedes that is 19th fastest. So I think a few teams now thinking, OK, we're not going to go any quicker. We'll get the second driver ready for Q2. Concentrate on that now.
This is a Silver Cup, not the Prime, it's the Silver Cup that the 55 Ferrari is running in. There's a number of cars running in that where you've got two silver status drivers, as opposed to the Pro-Am where you would have maybe a bronze and a gold. So the categories, subdivision, Marcel Fassler. So they overall
outside the top 20.
Yeah, so I've got the timing scoring below 20.
Jean-Luc Beaubelic's car there, 17th, out of 67, gets Nicky Pola. So his work is done in the Attempto Racing, very smart Lamborghini. So lots of teams, I think, now calling their own end to Q1, even though there will be time to go back out, as perhaps they feel little to achieve. And they can now concentrate on Q2. There is Broniszewski's car gently being retrieved. Michael overseeing operations, the circuit recovery team about to put that on the flatbed. It won't take long, hopefully, for that to then be off the circuit and for the session to restart.
Interesting, just looking through the top 20, the 63 Lamborghini, the winningest car in the 2017 either endurance and sprint or either. There's Rob Bell, who had an unpleasant moment yesterday in the final chicane. So there is. He likes Thai food. Interesting. I didn't realize such a cosmopolitan person. I thought he was more into battered Mars bars.
No, he's just the right side, isn't he, of the English-Scottish border. The driver from Northumberland, based not far from St Helens in the northwest these days.
Wonder if they did that kind of profile on the commentary team, if there would be anything of interest in our eating habits.
Not a thing. Not a thing. Drinking habits, maybe. It might read like the wine list, but Stephen Kane offers Malcolm Wilson a thought or two. So Vincent Abril got the other Bentley to 10th. Session is going to restart in 2 minutes' time, so we will be good to go again.
Yeah, it's unsettling for everybody because they're just about getting into call it a groove, if you like. And then the red flags float. I was saying the 63 Lamborghini, not on the side of the top 20. Now, it only needs one quick lap. But when everybody else is going to be on track at the same time, that will preclude you getting that clear lap that you most definitely will need to make sure you're up at the sharp end of the grid.
There's the tech spec on the Bentley, twin-turbo V8 4-litre engine. And Vincent Abril and Stephen Kane drive number 7. It is Andy Soucek who drives number 8 with Maxime Soulet. So no question, you've got some very good drivers within the Bentley ranks. And although it still looks a big car, there are more and more big GT cars coming in. The BMW is a mighty piece of kit as well. There's number 8 then. That's the quicker of the two at the moment. Andy Soucek, the man that's done the time to be 0.126 per second, away from Phil Quaife, the British driver who remains fastest. We don't see that much of Phil these days, but it's good that he's in the AF Corsa Ferrari. And we have got already lots of drivers and team managers being called towards the stewards. We'll worry about that after Q1, which will get back underway in just under a minute's time. So the McLarens, you talked about Rob Bell and that steering drama of yesterday. He is also yet to break into the top 20. The best of the McLarens is currently Ben Barneycoat's 58 car. Again, they're all run by Straka. They're down the pit lane. It's like the walk of shame, isn't it? Broniszewski's Ferrari brought back past everybody else, so they can say, "Oh, look what he's done." Ooh.
Yeah, and, I mean, we got a review of what happened. Just he was a little bit wide too early. Soucek and Soulet have a little conversation. Number 8 Bentley, but just to the exit of turn 1. If you exit too soon, the track actually comes back. So it effectively narrows off the exit, and if you just get that wheel on the curb, remember there was rain overnight, there can still be a little bit of residue of the rain trapped in the curb. And literally just he spun up the outside rear wheel, and thereafter nothing very much is going to be able to do about it.
So the green flag shown, we've got 8 minutes to go. Now if you take an out lap and then you take your start-up lap. You're not going to get that many laps in, but it's worth for some going out, because every lap does burn off some more fuel and make the car lighter for the second driver for the next session. So some have decided not to go out, others, as you can see in profusion, are going out. And if you're at the front of the queue, you're in the box seat to try to get a lap in here.
Yeah, there will be some people who are going to hang back to let this initial flush of cars go out, come around, and then go on to their first flying lap, at which point they will probably then join the circuit. But that's going to leave you a little over 6 minutes in which to do your out lap, get up to pace, and then try and get a time lap in that would be appropriate to the out-and-out pace of your car.
So through the Villeneuve chicane then comes the HTP Mercedes. You've got the WRT Audis. WRT came close a week ago to a win in the Nürburgring 24 hours, lost out on the penultimate lap when the rain changed, but WRT back seemingly after the pace yesterday.
Headmaster, were those cones in place yesterday when drivers were doing their free FP1, FP2 practices?
Yes, they were.
They were, okay, because I just wondered, I didn't notice them, I just wondered if they were there. Maybe that's part of the explanation where the lap times are still 30.8 as against the 30.0, so it's 0.8 of a second. We're slower than we were last night when it was the track temperatures were very much higher, the ambient was much higher, it was very heavy air, it was thunderous air. So where have the lap times gone? Was the track really washed by overnight rain, and is that the reason why we're not seeing the lap time? Is it because cars are carrying more fuel to get them through these 3 qualifying segments? You know, the tyre side shouldn't be an issue. So, waiting for answers to questions. Still with Phil Quaife, 55 Ferrari overall. And there we are. Now, will he be penalised for that? Yes, he will. Well, he is penalised anyway, because he's made an error in his last time.
Yeah. So 85 getting it wrong. Fabian Schiller, here's the replay. Talk us through it, John.
Yes, under brakes, and he just realises I'm not slowing down quickly enough. And rather than attempting to turn in, maybe get out of shape, he takes the option, which is to shortcut the chicane. But of course, that will have had a penalty. The penalty will have been his lap will have been slower anyway. The second penalty is the lap will be deleted, regardless of whatever it was.
Jimmy Eriksson was one of those looking on, as over the timing line now comes Ben Barnicoat, factory McLaren driver now, and he goes on to a flying lap, out lap completed. He at the moment is the trailblazer for Stracker Racing in the McLaren, wide there, coming out of the first left, now up towards Canal Bocht, which loops you round, and then you've got the canal on the left-hand side as you sprint up towards the Lucien Bianchi Bocht. We have just got Jake Dennis go fastest of all. First flying lap of the restart, 1:30.491, and Phil Quaife has done an absolute best in the first sector. You've now got Marcus Winkelhock fastest of all, 1:30.405, so your answers are coming. We're only a tenth off what they were doing yesterday now.
Yes, and it is, surprisingly, 2 Audis, and Audi was the brand that pretty much was the pace of the field. And there are some circuits that suit some cars better than others, and I think maybe this may well be the Audi circuit so far.
Rob Bell, though, goes fastest. So McLaren, 1:30.386 for Rob Bell. Not quite the best time of the weekend, but we are getting closer to the Dennis Schotthorst's time from FP1 yesterday. Now, Ben Barnicoat has done 2 personal best here. He's getting on with the job. He's dropped down the order, of course, while others have gone faster. But the 58 McLaren is on a good lap. He's got the road to himself as well. There's no traffic to get in the way. 4 more minutes and counting as Ben Barnicoat now comes down towards the Jackie X Bocht. He rides the curb, sprinting up towards the timing line. He will break the beam in a moment. The time to beat is a 1:30.386. And as Ben Barnicoat goes through, he will do what? He will go 7 fastest, that's all. So not what we anticipated. Bas Linders looks on from the pit bunker as you see 98 BMW now, which is another car yet to really improve. Marcus Palteler, runner-up last week in the Nürburgring 24 hours. He's the man behind the wheel. He's kind of an honorary Belgian. He spent so many years racing for Belgian teams and in Belgian championships. He's now with the German Rover Racing BMW squad, and this car is 9th fastest.
Yes, personal best in Sector 1. So we've got just over 3 minutes to get this lap complete, to get another lap, should he choose to take it. So up over the top, the car gets light as it gets to the top of the crest, then the compression as you come down the hill, then heavy braking. into the Villeneuve chicane, a chicane that was introduced following the tragic accident of Gilles Villeneuve in 1982. In my opinion, it really has spoiled the flow of the racetrack around that part of the circuit, but it was done for safety reasons, and you can't really argue with that.
On board with Paltler then, through the Rint curve. Jake Dennis has done an absolute best in Q1, incidentally, in Audi number 3, which was the gun car yesterday. Paltler, meantime, goes left and goes right, comes out of the X-Bocht. He's heading up towards the timing line. The big BMW booms up towards the pit lane, up towards the timing line. 12th at the start of the lap, and by the end of it, he goes 6th fastest. Marcus Paltler, 1 minute 30.518 in the car that he shares with Jesse Krohn, who you saw looking on there. Now that is Jake Dennis, absolute best and a personal best, but a little bit crossed up, ever so slightly coming into the X-Bocht. He shares this car with Peter Skorhorst, who will go in Q2. Jake Dennis comes across the timing line. Is this going to put him top? Let's see. The answer is 2nd fastest. A 1/5 of a second back from Rob Bell.
But Rob Bell is the first car this weekend to have broken that 90-second barrier around the Zolder racetrack. So 1:29.707. And Jake Dennis is a 1/4 of a second away in 2nd place. Then Marcus Winkelhock, Dominic Baumann, then the BMW. We just seen that. And Fuminelli in the first of the McLarens from the number 42 McLaren, which he is sharing this weekend with Lewis Williamson from Scotland.
And Lewis gets a grid drop, incidentally, because of the number of behavioural warning points that he has copped. He also yesterday was given a finger wagging for causing a collision under a waved yellow and setting an improved lap time under a yellow flag.
He got the full hand, the ace, king, queen, jack, didn't he?
Absolutely. So he didn't endear himself much to the stewards, but when he keeps out of trouble, he goes rapidly. Now the BMW 98 down in sectors 1 and 2 this time. That's 27 Gustavo Jackerman, still 16th fastest. 85 Fabian Schiller goes through. That Mercedes, after its run wide at the chicane earlier, is 10th quickest, but not looking as though it's going to improve on this lap. Actually, the better times of this run, if you like, came early out of the pit lane. Now they've done more and more laps, the pace is starting to drop off again. We've only got half a minute to go anyway to the end of Q1, but with not that many circulating, fewer circulate now. There's Schiller going to the pit lane, Jackerman the same ahead of him.
And the thing I'm still confused by, where is the 63 Lamborghini? Mirko Bortolotti, Christian Engelhardt, we still have yet to see them break into the top 20, as we look at Phil Quaife, who was momentarily quickest overall. So the 55 Ferrari down in 11th position. He will be able to complete this lap. The checkered flag will be out literally in the space of 1 second as he comes down to this very tight Boulderberg Bock and through the flick, the Jochen Rindt flick, and all the way up to the Jackie Eeks chicane. It's easier to say it in English than it is in Flemish.
Well, the answer to the question about the Lamborghinis is that number 63 is 30th and number 19 is 33rd. So keeping their powder dry for Q2, I suspect.
I think you might be right. Phil Quaife doesn't improve. 1:30.6. Was just over a 1/10 of a second slower as we look into the BMW garage. Marcus Paltler out of the car, and it's a high work rate circuit. I mean, the weather here has been really, really warm, almost oppressive yesterday. This morning, much cooler, but it's a high work rate circuit. They're physically demanding, shortish straights, lots of braking, turning left, no, sorry, turning right, turning right, turning right, turning right, with the occasional little chicane where you do turn left.
Q1 at an end. Rob Bell the fastest, the only man this weekend thus far to have got himself a decent time below the 1:30s, chased by Jake Dennis, who just by thousands dropped below the 90-second mark at the very end. So it's Rob Bell, Jake Dennis, Marcus Winkelhock third ahead of Dominic Baumann's Mercedes 4th, 5th. Antonio Felix da Costa's BMW from David Fuminelli, Marcus Paltler 7th, Ben Barnicoat ahead of Johnny Kane. 2 McLarens clear of the Mercedes of Fabian Schiller. Phil Quaife in the end dumped down to 11th in the best Ferrari Felix Morales Mercedes, 12th quickest. 13th goes the way of Marcel Fassler. 14th fastest Andy Soucek, so Bentley struggling a little bit in Q1 in the end. Nicky Polo was 15th ahead of Gustavo Jackerman, and then Franck Pereira, Alexander Matschult 18th from Romain Monti, Stuart Leonard 20th, Enzo Ede, the reigning champion 21st from Piti Bieron-Bahti, racing here for the first time, Vincent Abril only 23rd, and despite going off the road, Michael Bronizeski not slowest. He wasn't overtaken by everybody. He is 24th come the end of the session. 25th is where you find 89 Mercedes. Christophe Bourret doing the time ahead of teammate Jean-Luc Bobelic. Steve Earle racing here for the first time, 27th. From Michael Meadows, then Giovanni Venturini, then Christian Engelhardt. Kevin Checon's Audi 31st from Clement Schmidt's 75 Audi. And then it is Ezequiel Perez Companc at the back of the field. So Marshall's ready for Q2. The fans in the grandstand's ready as well. But there is still 5 minutes, give or take. So for some time just to have a sit down.
And amazingly, in the first chicane behind the pits, those marker cones have remained in place.
Oh, you have little faith.
Absolutely. Knowing what racing drivers tend to do, they take any opportunity. But maybe the message is finally being received that track abuse will be penalised. And I think it's long, it's been coming. The track abuse thing is something that I've banged on about for a considerable amount of time, and now race officials are beginning to implement penalties for that, and it will make these racing drivers better drivers if they learn to drive within the parameters of the circuit.
So it is Rob Bell fastest at the end of Q1. Let's hear from the British driver with our reporter Dakota Jane.
Rob, you're currently in P1, and that was really quick. Do you have faith in Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why he's in Q2 and Q3. You know, he's been knocking on the door for a while. So we thought, especially we had a bit of a trouble yesterday, so we give him a go today, and I'm sure he'll improve on what we've done. And car was good. Might have gone faster, but for an Audi driver on the last lap, didn't have any respect and sat in the middle of the road. So I'm going to have a chat with him. But other than that, we're all looking good.
Let's see what Andrew's got. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's about the happiest I think Rob Bell has been all season, because it's not been a happy start to the year for the reigning endurance champion. The McLarens have been struggling a little bit, it seems, on this new tyre, but that was good pace. And Andrew Watson, who will do the driving duties now in Q2, and if they get into it, Q3, is no mean driver himself either, the Northern Irishman. Certainly one to watch. Stephen Kane, another quick Northern Irishman. I can't think of another one though, John, can you?
Not off the top of my head, no, I can't. Anyway, it's good to see. I mean, we've got Stephen Kane, you've got Johnny Kane, no relation, and you've got Andrew Watson. So 3 young drivers coming out of the province and making their mark in GT racing, and hopefully they will have a long and fruitful careers in the respective teams they're driving with. Yeah,
Stephen Kane, great little character. Johnny Kane, likewise, has had a long career now in GT and sports car racing, and always delivers. And it's one of the beauties of the current surge in interest in sports car racing as a whole. You've got so many opportunities for so many drivers. Mirko Bortolotti, who has been very much one of the stars of the Lamborghini Squadra Corsa effort this year. The car's run by the Grasser Racing Team. There you've got 67 ready to go. The Attempto car, Max van Splinteren, will do the driving duties for Akinaka's team. Another ex-single-seater racer. It does look fantastic, that livery on that car. It's understated, but it just works.
I tell you what, that would look great in Bond Street.
Yes.
Or Sloane Street.
Yeah.
I mean, outside a posh hotel. Wouldn't that look wonderful?
Yeah. There's a photo shoot for some enterprising sponsor to go and organise. Lots of people getting in the queue at the end of the pit lane. Now, you either want to be the first out, or you want to lag back and be the last car out and try and buy some clear track space, but it's not going to be that easy. 89, the Mercedes of ACA ASP, that's the Christophe Bourret and Jean-Philippe Belloc car that, again, runs in Pro-Am. The other question over all of this is whether or not 11 Ferrari can be repaired just to get out and do a couple of laps at the very end. But I fear not. We shall see.
It would be a pretty good pit work by the Castle Racing team if they could get the car back in the pits. What they have to do is take off the errant body panels, and you don't know if there's any residual damage to other aero parts, particularly the rear spoiler, which hangs low under the rear, loosely you might call a bumper on a modern GT car, and that has a bearing on the overall handling and performance. So it probably is prudent to not to rush, but to make sure that the car is actually in a condition when they start the first of the 2 events here later this afternoon, in absolutely the condition that it needs to be, and not compromise anything by trying to rush out to get into this second of the 3 sessions. or try maybe, well, assuming their time would still stand, get into the session free.
We did see a great big piece of rear bodywork rip off, didn't we, from underneath the car, so it might be a long process. Green flag is shown, so we're in business. And look, some of the cannier teams lag back, try and get some clear space. Others go out as best they can at the front of the queue and then try and work their way through. You can see that straight away the HTP Mercedes drivers are on their toes, trying to work their way through. 85, the Fabian Schiller car now given over to Jules Szymkowiak. They were second in the qualifying race at Misano at the start of the year. 84 now goes to Maxi Buch, who along with Franck Pereira won the qualifying race at Misano and of course won the main race there as well.
Just got a glimpse as it came out of the pits of the 43 Stracker Racing McLaren. Johnny Kane, normally that car would be driven by Loris Hazemans. He is not here this weekend. The car will be driven therefore by Tom Linegar, whom we're familiar with in McLaren in previous seasons, so there's a change there. And that 43 car actually was originally a 44 number, and the team requested a number change principally on the basis that maybe 44 was an unfortunate number. So they've changed the number, change your luck.
Well, let's see how that car fares, because it is currently 9th fastest.
Everybody trying to find track position as they come out, or come up to the end of their out lap, coming into this chicane, the Jackie Eakes. So from here on, it's hard on it, get a good quick exit down pit straight and into turn one as we look at the number 3, Jake Dennis, Peter Schoenhorst. Schoenhorst behind the wheel. So nice clean exit out of turn 2 through 3, the canal turn. That's all flat out. Then a big breakdown into Lucien Bianchi. Bianchi, of course, one of the great legends of Belgian motorsport from the 60s, tragically, along with his future-to-be nephew, not with us any longer.
Indeed so. Jake Dennis then, with the Racing Steps Foundation backing, really throwing the car, sorry, not Jake Dennis, Peter Schotthorst in Jake Dennis's car, with the Racing Steps Foundation backing on it through that first chicane. Peter Schotthorst then has done many a mile around here in junior categories, but now stepping up full-time to big GT ranks this year. The pressure is on to deliver, but he and Jake Dennis did deliver yesterday. Now, the times in free practice, both sessions topped by this car, and in both instances the times credited to Peter Schotthorst. So we'll now see whether he is as quick as Jake Dennis. Jake coming into GT cars from F3. In fact, he still had a part programme in F3 at the start of the year in the FIA Championship for Cardiff. Peter Schotthorst has come via single-seaters and then the Carrera Cup Deutschland. He comes now through the X-Bocht and will start a flying lap this time around. Remember, if you get into Q3, then it is the time that you set in Q3 that delivers your grid time. If you don't, then you have to take your better one out of Q1 or Q2. So the pressure is on to get into and then deliver Q3. Yeah, somebody's run wide and kicked up the dust. Yeah,
Stuart Reynolds looking on. Didn't catch who it was, but certainly a load of dust kicked up. And as I mentioned, it is very sandy around the edges of this Zolder racetrack.
There's no yellow flag, so whoever it was got away with it, just ran wide rather than have a drama. Number 26, the Santa Lock Audi there in the hands of Christopher Haase, and he really is in strife.
Yes, and that was down the Jochenrind, the little S's. So kick the grass, kick the dust in the exit, and the back end snapped sideways. That would have taken a few tenths of a second off the 26 Audi's time. Still the number 3 Audi is quickest overall in this session, 1:30.429, and that's what, over 5-6 tenths of a second slower than the 59 McLaren of Rob Bell in Q1.
So Haase pressing on. Hugely experienced driver, Christopher Haase, and this is what he did wrong down at the bottom of the lap.
Yeah, just let it run too wide in the exit, trying to get it straightened up, caught. In fact, he went over the curb, caught the concrete, and then at the end of the concrete kicked the dust. Yeah. So an untidy exit. Robin Freehan's gone quickest over was Morco Bortolotti. Why should we worry? 1:29.456. Robin Freehan's had just gone quickest on a 29.8. Now the gap between first and second, just under half a second.
So Bortolotti doing the best time of the weekend, 1:29.456, better than Rob Bell went in Q1. How is the Andrew Watson McLaren doing? Well, he's not yet gone out. There is the car. So that's the one to watch in the Northern Irish driver's hands. Up to second fastest now goes Carlo Van Dam, 129.671, also quicker than Rob Bell, so Watson's got to deliver when he goes out there. Fourth fastest currently Robin Frins, number 17, in the car that he shares with Stuart Leonard, and hustling on. Now Robin Frins on this lap has done a personal best in the first sector. The second sector is here at the end of the run down towards Boulderberg, and at that point he has lost a second in the middle sector alone. So don't expect much out of this lap because of that. Interesting as well, we've been talking about the overnight rain. It's still very dusty, isn't it?
It is. The edge of the circuit is extremely dusty. We are actually running alongside one of the major canals that runs north-south within Belgium, and it is a sand-based racetrack. So although there has been rain overnight, there still is a residue of that. As we drop down the hill with Daniel Juncadella down into a spin for the 27 Lamborghini, and that's coming out again of the Jochen Rindt S's or chicane.
It's Nicola Di Marco at the wheel, and I suppose the more people that run wide, the more dust they bring onto the circuit. Di Marco getting in the way somewhat there of Danny Juncadella. Second fastest, Juncadella, the Mercedes factory driver, had done the absolute best in the first sector, but bails.
Yes, and he bailed because of the traffic, the 27.
Yeah. So 27, Nicola Di Marco recovering after the spin, but lots of people now pouring down the pit lane. Now we've got some lap times being deleted, and one of them is Mirko Bortolotti. So for track limits, Bortolotti's pole lap has gone, and also losing a lap is 66, which is the Attempto car, Giovanni Venturini and Marco Mappelli. Mappelli's time is taken away.
This is going to be focusing. Just looking out behind as we come up into the chicane. Looks like the two Lamborghinis running more or less, well, three of them in fact, two green ones. So Mirko Bortolotti will wonder, what did I do wrong? Because I'm sure in his mind he didn't do anything wrong, but track limits are being scrupulously adhered to, and you don't want to do your best lap when the tyres are at their ultimate level of performance to have it deleted. So Robin Frins, personal best sector 1. Nothing unusual. Currently in third place on a 29.8. So let's look and see what Robin Frins does. It's 31.5, so a time of no consequence as we see the 88. Daniel Juncadella, Mercedes in the pits.
And they're studying all the data, the engineers. It's like PC World, isn't it, with all the computers there for them to analyse the data as best they need. They're coming through the Villeneuve chicane 98. Now, the Rover BMW that we saw Marcus Palter driving Q1 has now been given over to Jesse Krohn. So up comes car 98, and this for the moment outside the top 20. We've got another car losing a lap for track limits, and it's 42, and that is Lewis Williamson. He's going to have his own book of stewards decisions, I think. He's been in the walls quite a lot this weekend, but this is fairly innocuous, track limits, compared to some of the things he's had lobbied against him. Right, Robin Frins is another improver in sectors as we ride on board now with Jesse Krohn, 98 BMW, up towards the timing line. Through it goes. On board now, John.
Yes, down, start, finish straight. Look how narrow it is. That's also something to think about when we start the first of the two races. Then the exit into turn 1, the track kind of comes back at you. Get over to the left-hand side into turn 2, and it's a kind of double apex, corner run out and wide. The second apex actually is turn 3 canal turn, but you make the two blend into one. Then before you know it, hard on the brakes into Lucien Bianchi. Key corner here to get a good exit speed, because here is the second opportunity you will have on a lap to find a pass. It's easily defended, and remember, these GT3 cars are physically very big cars, so you need to be well and truly alongside your competitor to make sure you can take away that corner. Over the hill, down in the compression, then on the brakes, hard on the brakes, down into the Villeneuve chicane. Cone has been knocked. First cone. Put it in my diary.
Call the Cones hotline.
Yes.
One's gone.
So out of the Villeneuve into the next, the Telmark, and then down, all the way down into this Boulderberg. Big overtaking position again, but you must be alongside. Don't try and sort of whiz down the inside. Think you're going to get away with it. And then the final overtaking position on a lap, again, on the brakes, up into the Jackie chicane. But again, it's an area, and you can just see how much the BMW is backed out, seeking track position, even though he had personal bests in first and second sectors. Robin Frins, by the way, has just gone quickest overall in the 17 Audi. 1:29.508.
So we're now half a second quicker than the best time of yesterday. So the initial fear that we were going to be slower is now being put to rest. Maxi Bouk, meantime, number 84 Mercedes, only 15th, but he has done 2 personal bests on this lap. So Maxi Bouk heading up towards the X-Box, assuming he stays out. This should be an improvement, we'll see. As you can see from the Lumirac display, 15th is where he is, and as he turns his way left and then right up towards the timing line, the time he's got to beat is a 29.5. Is he going to be able to do that? Let's see, 27, 28, 29.9 puts him 7th. It's an improvement, but he lost out in that last sector. He was 4/10ths away from the Sector 3 best. Number 90 in the meantime, Raffaele Marciello has done 2 personal bests. There's dust settling ahead of him. Marciello comes up towards the timing line, and where will he go as he breaks the beam? He goes second fastest, 1:29.577. That means he is 69 thousandths away from Robin Frinn's top time.
And critically, 43.
Or is that 42? Let's just see.
It is 42, yes.
It's Lewis Williamson.
Lou has been, what would you describe that?
Rally crossing.
Yeah, that's what the best
very
description.
wide, to be polite about it.
Maxi Bouk, in the meantime, 6th quickest overall, but fastest overall in Sector 1. We're watching the 42 McLaren.
So he's back on track, but of course now he's got dirty tyres, so he'll lose a lap also trying to clean those. 84 Maxi Bouk, absolute best in the first sector. He's on it, working his way towards the end of Sector 2. There's traffic up the road. It's a personal best in the second sector. So he's actually 3/10ths down on the absolute best in that middle sector of the lap. The second sector absolute best is done by Koen Redegaard's McLaren. But Maxi Bouk then, who is currently 6th fastest, is going to improve, but is it going to be enough to put him on the front row? He's got to be an absolutely ripper third sector to compensate for a not so great second. He comes up towards the timing line now. It's a 29.5 to beat. Goes through and goes 4th fastest, 1:29.715.
Either I'm not looking at the screen correctly, but oh, there's Lewis Williamson. I mean, never had a chance in you-know-where of making the corner, just misjudgment into turn 1.
Yeah.
Maybe a car issue, we don't know, we'll never give him the benefit of the doubt. But where is Marco Bortolotti? Well, now he's just gone second quickest with, what, 2.5 minutes of the session remaining, so he can breathe easily. He had his best time deleted. He's now done the second quickest time, 0.02 of a second away from the time Robin Frinn's in the 17 Audi. So 63 back at the races.
And Andrew Watson has had a lap time cancelled for track limits. There is 39, which is Carlo Van Dam. We've just had Frank Stippler go 3rd fastest, 1:29.542. That means that he's 34 thousandths away from pole position. Over the timing line goes Van Dam, and he is 5th. That was a better lap time, 1:29.579. Now there is Bortolotti. He is down, in fact, in the first sector. So he's got a bit of work to do if this is going to be an improvement.
Daniel Juncadella, 88 Mercedes, quickest overall Sector 1. He's just been demoted by Jules Gugnon in the sister car. He's gone 7th, Juncadella's down to 8th, but Juncadella on a quick lap as we watch Bortolotti. Has he got anything left in the tank on this lap? He's got time for 1 more lap, so he may have decided, but behind the 84 Mercedes, which is not going to be ideal. So the Lamborghini comes across the line, 1:29.6. just fractionally slower than his previous best.
I know this is a relatively short lap because the length here is 4K, but we've got, in this Q2 part of qualifying, the top 27 covered by less than a second. That's pretty good going.
Well, I'd like to see it more competitive myself, but no, it's unbelievable. Juncadella comes across the line, stays 6th. So all that good work in Sector 1, nothing really in the final sector where he lost out big time. We don't know whether that was due maybe to catching a slower car, but anyway, the pace on Sector 1 very much with the 88 Mercedes AMG GT3.
87 in the meantime presses on. 89, Jules Gugnon has gone around. That's at turn 1 as well, isn't it? So Gugnon, who had been going strongly, sorry, I'll tell you Gugnon, it's 89 that's had the spin. So that's the Bourret Belloc car, Jean-Philippe Belloc. It is red flag.
Yep, and we've got so the session's ended.
Yeah,
now.
17 seconds were on the clock. It's the end. So there is Gugnon down the pit lane. Apologies, it was Jean-Philippe Belloc, but rotated. There's the co-driver Jean-Luc Beaubelique, and there is Le Drapeau Rouge to say car in a dangerous place. We'll stop that. And so now we turn our attention to Q3, and we'll confirm who is eligible for that in a moment, but also we'll confirm that Robin Frins is fastest in Q2 with a 1:29.508, best time of the weekend.
So red flag all around the circuit. Everybody now needs to return to the pit lane, which they're doing anyway. The session is concluded aside from the red flag. Rob Bell looking slightly tense, maybe disappointed that his young charge didn't get a better lap. He's currently 16th, so they've gotten through by the skin of their teeth to Q3.
Among those that have lost out, potentially, are Christopher Mies, number 1 out of Q2, but we need to have a look at the combined times. Where does that put Rob Bell? 7th, so his time better than Andrew Watson's, interestingly, even though they've given Andrew the duty in Q3. Session is not to be resumed, that much confirmed. So Robin Frins, number 17 Audi, will go through. We'll confirm all of the rest in a moment. Let's just get the combined situation on the screen. So Robin Frins in number 17 qualifies. 63 will go into Q3. Driving duties to be done by Mirko Bortolotti. 74 is going to be driven by Frank Stippler. Then you've got Raffaele Marciello in number 90. 39, Carlo Van Dam goes through with 88 for Danny Jonkidea. And keep scrolling on who is in strife. Well, it's not been a great session for Bentley, has it? Number 7, he's only 24th, a long, long way back. And also number 1, the reigning champions, Enzo Eid and Christopher Mies. That's a surprise, given how well some of the Audis have been going. The number 3, the number 17 especially.
Yes, and the number 1 Audi in particular, Enzo Eid and Christopher Mies, have been a really strong partnership, and that they haven't made it through to Q3 is a surprise as much to us, no doubt, as it is to them. Also, Simkoviak and Schiller down in 30th place in the 85 Mercedes. That's unexpected.
So Q3 will get underway shortly, and for some teams it's going to be a very hectic qualifying race to try and get up the order. This makes you understand why in some cases you put your faster driver into the qualifying race, the more experienced driver perhaps, because they might be better at getting through the traffic. It's the results of the qualifying race that give you the grid for the main race. So if you are thinking you might struggle in qualifying, then put your faster, your better overtaker, your more experienced driver into the qualifying race, try and get up the order, at least at the start, and see whether that's going to work in your favour for a good result and therefore a good grid position for the main race. You do get points in the qualifying race, but of course there are fewer, and they're only for the top 6, whereas it's for the top 10, and in greater number anyway, for the main race. So Alvaro Parent misses out, Christopher Mies misses out, and also we have the 2 BMWs missing out. We've got the 2 Bentleys missing out, but very shortly we will be good to go for Q3, and it's only 10 minutes this time.
Just going through those cars that haven't made it through to Q3, my alarm bells are going off, because the start of this race, it is a very narrow pit straight. We've seen previously that there have been incidents where quick cars are out of position, and consequently we've had issues before we even get into turn 1. So I just hope that everybody is taking on board the new stricture that's coming from race director and the stewards, that driving behaviour standards are going to be raised.
So there we have a look at number 74 Audi that's currently 3rd. It's Frank Stippler that's going to take the wheel of that. Raffaele Marciello in the Mercedes. You see how the drivers use some of the curb, but not too much. Number 3 is the Jake Dennis Peter Schotthorst Audi. That goes through. That's going to be 11th. And so the Racing Steps Foundation WRT Audi, immaculate. And WRT, after coming oh so close to winning the Nürburgring 24 Hours a week ago, leading on until the penultimate lap, looking for good results here on home soil. 888 is the AM Cup car, the only AM Cup car in the hands of Steve Earle and David Perel. And it's good to have that car on the grid this weekend. Number 19, then, for the purposes of Q3, will have Norbert Siedler behind the wheel, and therefore it's going to be quick. That's a given when you put Norby behind the wheel of it. And the Grasser Racing Team car will be one to watch, as too is going to be the WRT Audi and disappointing, we don't see a Bentley get to Q3 with the demise of both 7 and 8. So Bentley struggling around here, it seems.
Yes, unexpectedly too, because the Bentley is such a good car, chassis-wise. Enzo Eid and Christopher Mies, you can see the disappointment on their faces. Now they no doubt have got a story to tell us. Well, everybody who hasn't made it through qualifying, but that particular pairing has been very effective, certainly throughout the 2016 series, and Enzo Eid winning the Sprint Cup Championship along with Christopher Mies as his co-driver. So a lot of tales of woe, I suspect, after qualifying is complete, and if and or buts. But it is the nature of the circuit. There's little room around it. The volume of traffic on the circuit, 30 over 33 cars, 4 kilometers, 10 corners, tight. And if you get caught in the wrong part of the racetrack at the wrong time, well, that will be a lap that you will have to forgo. Oh, charming. I know Winston Churchill used to do that, but you're not Winston Churchill.
You're not fighting on beaches or anywhere else.
Well, somebody is this weekend, I understand.
So the driver's getting ready for the last 10 minutes of qualifying. And at Santalok, Christopher Hasse will do the driving duties. You saw Christopher Mies a little while ago, talking to Enzo Eid, frustrated here, but a winner of 24 Hours in Germany last weekend. So like many, it's been a busy few days. And Hasse Racing team making sure they've got the right tyres for Q3. The pits, the paddock at Zolder, absolutely heaving with GT cars, not only those for Blancpain, but you've got the National Championship here as well. So there's a great weekend, this new racing festival, as it's called, for the fans here at Zolder. Looking down at Straka, drivers in cars, doors open to try and get a little bit of cool air, but still very hot conditions here.
One of the things that makes Zolder, I think, very special is because it is utterly old school, it means in relative terms that the fans and the spectators can get much closer to the action, especially coming down pit straight. The tribunes, the grandstands facing the pits are always full, but all the way through the circuit, I mean, you might say broadly out through the forest, you really get a sense of being at one with cars on track. To me, it's one of the circuits that I've always enjoyed, both as a driver racing on and as a broadcaster coming to. And Steve Earle, who you mentioned, David, just a moment or two ago, Steve's first visit, and part of the attraction was it's an old school circuit.
Yeah.
And I just pointed out to him, it is 10 corners, Steve. The principal ones all go right. It's a bit like an oval racetrack in a very loosely laid out form. But it's one of those circuits that you really can get a grip of and you can really enjoy.
Yes. And one of the reasons, one of the beauties of it staying as an old school circuit is you can't do much with it because you haven't got the room. Because on one section, as you mentioned earlier, you've got the canal, so you can't go into that. And then on the back straight and the pit straight, you've got lots of houses, actually. It's quite residential around here. So you just don't have the room to do anything else with it. You have what you have. Vincent Voss, Thierry Tassin looking on. Pierre Dieudonné was there a moment ago. I think he's just to Vincent's left. So 3 big hitters at WRT. Now starting to look a bit happier about life, but the Audis have been really anonymous in the first sprint and endurance races of the year.
Yes, and I think, again, we're seeing this progression in evolution of all the brands in the GT3 sprint and endurance grids. And the Audi with they upgraded the Audi, I think it was 2015, they brought out the Series 2. And it still is an outstanding car. And as you pointed out at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, what won that race? Well, it was an Audi. In the sprint context, there are now cars, notably the 63 Lamborghini of Portanotti and Christian Engelhardt, that has been effectively the class of the field so far. And it is just the pace of evolution and development within these cars. Every race, even within the BOP, teams are developing, and the lap times are continuing to drop.
Some might say Lamborghini and Audi all part of the same family. The Lamborghini is basically an Audi R8 with a different badge. Why is one doing better than the other?
Well, so is Bentley. They're part of the same family, but of course they've got a totally different configuration. I think that the floor pan that the Lamborghini is using is maybe slightly later in terms of evolution and development than that Audi is currently using. But within that whole VW Audi family, you're going to see, I think, more convergence of the part spins between an Audi, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, whatever else.
So Q3 underway, only 10 minutes. Now, how many runs do you get out of this? Is it 2? Do you make 1 run? Do you put a fresh set of tyres on? Have you kept a fresh set of tyres for the second part? Or do you just try and make 1 set last for the whole 10 minutes?
I think it depends on your car as to how quickly you can turn that tyre on. And the 2017 Pirelli tyre, is, as I've said in previous broadcasts, is different to the 16. It doesn't have that very rapid ramp up of performance. It's a slightly more gradual one. So Andrew Watson, 59 McLaren, out early, got a clear track, wants to capitalise on that, wants to get his car obviously as close to the front as everybody, 17 or so that will be on track very shortly. There's just simply looking for the right moment to, well, I mean, how long do you have to wait for the right moment? So it doesn't matter how slow you go into the final chicane, it's here, get that run, get the maximum acceleration now. So coming across start-finish line with just under 7 minutes of the session to go.
There's not much time, so perhaps 2 laps. Let's see how this pans out. Christopher Hasse, another hugely experienced driver, successful driver as well. Former Blancpain Endurance Series, as it was then called, champion for Audi, along with Christopher Mies, Stefan Ortelli, and of course a winner of the FIA GT3 European Championship as well, going back quite a long time now. But Christopher Hasse, who has been part of the Audi family in Europe, in Australasia for a long, long time, blasts his way out of the Bianchi Bocht down this back straight, heading up towards the chicane. Traffic ahead, he's done the absolute best in the first sector. There's the 84 Mercedes just up the road ahead, which is Maxi Buch, flicks through the chicane, launches himself over the curb, will get past the Mercedes, forgive me, over the brow. The Audi tonks on up towards the Villeneuve chicane now, hard on the brakes, turn right, turn left.
Yes, so into the chicane, be neat and tidy, no abuse because of the cones there, so gets through that quickly and cleanly. Now the run down to the completion of the second sector looks very good from what we're seeing. It's the stopwatch that will tell us if it's very good or not. It is personal overall quickest. So Christopher Hasse, if he can continue with purples, will undoubtedly go quickest with just over 5.5 minutes to go. He's got a Lamborghini ahead, is at the 19 of the 63. It's the 63, so he needs to ensure that does not come into play. It'll be a distraction. It might have shaved a tenth or so off the time for Christopher Hasse, but as Bortolotti now accelerates out, he will be on his way as well.
So through goes Christopher Hasse. He does the benchmark time at 1:29.887 as the Ferrari of Carlo Van Dam comes up towards the line. It's been a real asset to the Sprint Cup this year, this Ferrari, and over the line to go second, 1:32.505. So there's more to come from Carlo Van Dam. 75 there, which is Philippe Salaquada heading up towards the timing line. Both of the ISR Audis have made it through, so it's not just about WRT this, is it? It's about the car, the brand as a whole. And we've also got Jimmy Eriksson having gone second fastest in 86 Mercedes. Wide there, getting a bit crossed up, 59 Andrew Watson.
Yeah, but he had, Tom Ledergaard in the sister car, quickest overall, 1:29.342, fastest lap of the weekend.
That's great stuff, isn't it?
Excellent, excellent. No wonder Rob Bell was confident in the young Ulsterman.
And what about 43? That's Colm Ledergaard up towards the timing line, 2 personal bests. So it's Watson, Stevens, Hasse, Gunon, Eriksson, Van Dam at the moment. Ledergaard goes through to go second. We've been talking about Audi being back. Are we now going to be able to say the same about McLaren after a pretty torrid start to the season? Let's see, as over the timing line now goes Robin Frins to go fastest in the Audi, 1:29.025. All of these best times now, of course, the best of anybody of the weekend. Dust settles ahead. Somebody's had a wild old ride there. 4 minutes on the clock. It's Audi from Mercedes.
Yes.
Raffaele Marciello goes second.
Yes, indeed. So that 90 Mercedes can't deny it. Fastest overall, Sector 1. Personal best, Sector 2 and Sector 3. Maximilian Buch, personal best, first and second sector. Where will the 84 Mercedes-Benz finish up at the end of this lap? 7th.
Not great, but there's another shot. There's 59, then Andrew Watson. He was the fastest. He's now 4th, but he's done an absolute best in Sector 2, a personal best in Sector 1. He has got 3.5 minutes of the session still to go, so there's time for this lap, and if the tyres will allow at least one more, gives the curb a bit of a whack there, coming into the X-Bocht up towards the timing line now then. The time to beat is a 1:29.025. It looks good, and it is not quite enough. It puts him second. He's a 10th down then, so 1:29.132 puts Andrew Watson second fastest. It is Audi McLaren, Mercedes, Lamborghini fourth, Mirko Bortolotti.
Surprise, everybody was looking at the Lamborghini to be the car that would once again dominate qualifying. It's on the second row provisionally, so there are just under 3 minutes of the session remaining. Bortolotti has gone fastest overall in Sector 2 on his current lap. That's his third flying lap, so he's got one final sector to go. If you look at Frank Stippler, there is the Lamborghini coming down up into the X curve behind Ledegard, I believe, in the McLaren.
So here is 63 Bortolotti. Not a great first sector, but the absolute best in the middle. So how's it all going to string together? He is fourth fastest, and as he goes across the timing line, he will stay fourth fastest. The lap time was not an improvement. So there's more to come from Bortolotti.
Yeah,
but curate's egg, that lap.
One more lap, but it just depends how much he's got left in the Pirelli tyre, because 2 quick laps take it out. And looking, a lot of cars actually in the pits right now. No, as they've all been demoted, I beg your pardon. Looking at so Mirko Bortolotti continues on his way up the hill.
Right, so Bortolotti's danger on this lap is traffic. He has done a personal best, as you can see, in Sector 1. I think it's a Stracker McLaren ahead as he bounces over the curb there.
Yep, I mean, he caught the curb on the exit, the back end of the car, the rear wheels actually got airborne. Such was the commitment from the Italian driver behind the wheel of the 63 Lamborghini. And personal best in Sector 1. Oh, dirt, dust on the outside. Yeah. So that nearly caught Bortolotti out. He had to make a correction, had to get out of the throttle. That will be a frustration, and the consequence was his middle sector time has down on what his previous best was.
And he's bailed.
Frank Stippler has gone up to fourth quickest, and he's got fastest overall in second. Yeah. And Bortolotti has realised now he may have the opportunity, if he wants to continue, but be careful, there's closing traffic coming up the back, and he's gone in to the pits, and he is going to start at best now on the third row of the grid.
Frank Stippler went out late into this session, so he's done fewer laps than anybody, but has gone fourth. Now this is the Bortolotti moment. He rides the curb first of all.
Yeah, but there's the car ahead of him. Yeah. Kicked up a load of sand just on the exit, and that's what caused the Lamborghini, the back end, suddenly got away from the Italian, and that was a moment when he thought, oh. We watch the number 2, Will Stevens, Marcus Winkelhock. Will Stevens behind the wheel, really looking again to get his season underway. It's been a difficult start for a variety of reasons, starting in Misano when that incident occurred between the 75 car and the number 2 on the opening lap, and that set off yet another massive incident between the midfields.
We've got 5 seconds to go, so just sneaking onto another lap will go the Audi now. Will Stevens goes through, goes up to 9th, the flag is out. So the session at an end. Andrew Watson takes the flag in the pit lane, and others bail, such as Peter Schotthorst. Robin Frins comes in. 15 fastest there is Danny Juncadella. He's done 2 personal bests. This should be an improvement. Let's see how far up the order it puts the Spanish driver then, the ex-DTM racer, former F3 Euro Series champion. Nephew of Luis Sala goes through and goes up to 13th fastest. He lost out, in fact, in the last sector, so it improved the time that lap, but not by as much as it potentially could have done, as others just abandoned the lap. Pit, Carlo Van Dam, pit, HTP Mercedes, pit. Going to be nobody left in a moment, but if they don't feel they can improve, there's no point staying out just for the sake of it. As down the pit road there goes 86 Jimmy Eriksson. So an intriguing session, and Audi, McLaren, the front of the grid. Robin Frins and Andrew Watson. Robin, you kind of anticipate to be up there because he has a great track record, initially in single-seaters and more recently in GT cars, but with all due respect to Andrew Watson, he is somebody who is still developing as a driver. The McLaren this year on the new Pirelli tyre has not looked as comfortable, so for Andrew to get up there, to be at the front of the grid, I reckon he's a mega effort.
Yes, it is, and remember that was a car that suffered a certain amount of damage as a consequence of Rob Bell when he was in the car yesterday. At the final chicane he turned left, and when he went to turn right, the car, there was something locked on the steering, so there was an incident. The car had to be repaired, the radiators, the bodywork was placed. So a great job by Stracker to get that car back and to be on the front row of the grid for this afternoon's sprint race.
Well, there you can see the times and the gaps at the end of Q3. Robin Frins a 10th up on Andrew Watson. Raffaele Marchiello third ahead of Frank Stifler, with Mirko Bortolotti fifth. Koen Ledegaard, Peter Skokhorst, Lewis Williamson, Will Stevens and Jimmy Eriksson are those that round out the top 10. Maxi Bucchoni 11th, Philip Salaquada next, ahead of the 88. Danny Juncadella, Mercedes. The Carlo Van Dam Ferrari clear of Jules Gounon's Mercedes. Christopher Haase in the end, a long way back, 16th. And Marco Mappelli, 17th at the end of Q3. That will be the pointy end then of the grid when we get to the qualifying race later on this afternoon. So it's going to be an intriguing race, that is for sure, with the mandatory pit stop. And we'll be on air at around about 2:30 local time. Race due to start at 3 o'clock, and it's one to look forward to later on today, that is for sure, now that we know the front of the grid, with Robin Frins having done the fastest time, a 1:29.025, the best of the weekend. Let's hear from Robin with Dakota now.
Robin, the man on pole, how are you feeling for the race?
Well, pretty good. It's the best starting position you can have. Qualify went really well in Q2. The lap time came a bit late, so we changed the car a bit for Q3, and it worked out in the very first flying lap when the tires are on its best. So yeah, really good lap, and well, starting P1, there's nothing better than P1.
There's definitely nothing better, thank you very much.
Potentially the only thing that might be better is to win the qualifying race and therefore get pole for the main race, and that will be the main aim of Robin Frins and Stuart Leonard when they get back on track this afternoon. And of course they had a second place in the main race at Brands Hatch, which Stuart was absolutely delighted with. Stuart's done a lot of racing miles in a relatively short space of time, but has really developed as a driver. So winner of the Sepang 12 Hours, his first ever outing for WRT, but very much now regarded as a GT driver on merit. Was driving WRT's Hyundai last weekend in the Nürburgring 24 Hours in one of the touring car classes. And a Hyundai. Exactly. And did well. Did well in his class. So it is time now for the teams to go and have a look at the data. In one or two cases, have a look at the damage and get themselves ready for the qualifying race that comes later on this afternoon. For the fans, there's lots more activity on track, and they will turn their attention shortly to the support classes that are here this weekend, and then back to the Blancpain GT series later on this afternoon as you look down on the pit straight here at this fabulous old school circuit of Zolder. Let's have a look at the highlights of qualifying as the cars poured out early doors for Q1, headed by Gustavo Jackermann. The drivers that weren't required were able to stand in the pits and watch what was going on, which included Alexander Matschall's acrobatics as he danced his way through the chicane. But it was a red flag midway through Q1 after this spin and a clatter of the Armco for Michael Bronizeski. The car was retrieved, but with damage was not seen again. As the drivers therefore, in some cases, abandoned ship and got ready for Q2. Fabian Schiller was one of those that got it wrong when he returned to the circuit, slithered off the road at the first of the two chicanes, and Nicola De Marco in the second session was a driver that had a spin. Getting all crossed up though was in 26 Christopher Haase. He caught the slide, but as more and more dust was brought onto the road, it became increasingly treacherous and you had to stay as best you could away from the dust. Lewis Williamson was one that had this big moment down at turn 1 in the first left as it's called, but he survived without any damage, even though the tyres were a bit scruffy afterwards. Peter Skokhorst had been going very strongly indeed, and the number 3 Audi was right up at the pointy end across all 3 elements of qualifying. And the Santilot car likewise. There was a big run wide there though for the Felix Torales, Danny Juncadella, Mercedes. Juncadella at the wheel of it. And although the Lamborghinis hadn't looked so good in Q1, in Q2 Mirko Bortolotti was really on it, battling his way up through the times. But Robin Frins is the man that was quickest in Q3 and he's on pole for the qualifying race.